2023, the 712th Arizona Racing Commission regular meeting taking place via Google Meets, and I will do the roll call. Chair Coolidge,
Present.
Vice Chair Olson,
Present.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Here.
Commissioner York.
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum. It is now 10:00 a.m. and the floor is yours, Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll call to order the 712th Arizona Racing Commission meeting of Thursday, June 15th, 2023. We're going to move a couple of things around unless our attorneys from B1 have any substantial updates on the Sims v. Sims.
Mr. Chair, we do have an update we would like to provide.
Okay, I'm going to ask that we move that. We're going to start with the hearing first. I know we have some time constraints, so we're going to move that down. So we'll jump into B2, the hearing on revocation of commercial live racing permit of J&J Equine Enterprises. We'll jump right into that. I know we have, I think, a conflict on a commissioner. Is that right?
Yes, Chair Coolidge, this is Vice Chair Olson. Based on the potential conflict identified at previous meetings, I'm going to abstain from this action item. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you. And do we have all of the attorneys present?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. This is Corey Langhofer for Arizona Downs.
Thank you, sir.
And this is Patrick Irvin representing the division here.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Kalkbrenner, are you on?
Good morning, Chair. Yes, I'm on. However, Diane Dedea will be representing you in this matter, and she is on as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chair, members of the Commission. Diane Dedea, Attorney General's office, serving as independent legal advisor.
Thank you, ma'am. This administrative hearing for the Arizona Racing Commission is now open. Today's date is Thursday, June 15th, 2023. The time is 10:02 a.m. My name is Charles Coolidge. I'm the chairman of the Arizona Racing Commission and will facilitate the administrative hearing set for this morning. At this hearing, official notice will be taken of the file, including the notice of hearing sent to the interested parties, the statement of legal authority and jurisdiction, the statutes and rules involved, and all proceedings, motions, and rulings. This hearing may be conducted in an informal manner and without adherence to the rules of evidence required in judicial proceedings. The evidence supporting a decision or order needs only to be relevant, reliable, or probative. After consideration of all the evidence received and marked into the record, together with all other official and relevant matters, findings of fact, conclusions of law, the Commission will prepare an order of its findings. For this hearing, we have opening arguments from both the state and the appellant. We will then proceed to the evidentiary phase and closing remarks from both parties. We have the Assistant Attorney General here, as well as Mr. Patrick Irving on behalf of the state, and to present matters of that set for the hearing today. This case is in the matter of Jacor Partners LLC, DBA Arizona Downs, ADOR permit number R5001, case number 23A016DOR. J&J Equine Enterprises LLC, DBA Arizona Downs, previously submitted an application for a 3-year commercial permit for calendar years 2022, 2023, and 2024. On May 4th, 2023, the Arizona Racing Commission, division issued a notice of intent to revoke the commercial racing permit previously issued to Arizona Downs at the direction of the Racing Commission for failing to run a live race meeting in calendar year 2023 due to revenue shortfalls. under the authority of ARS 5-108A1, allows the commission to refuse to renew a permit for any applicant if there is substantial evidence that the applicant in item C.I. Their corporation, firm, or association is not duly qualified and authorized to conduct business within the state, or G, should not, in the best interest of the safety, welfare, economy, health, and peace of the people in the state, should be granted a license or permit. ARS 5-108A2 provides the commission with the authority to refuse to approve or renew a permit to conduct a racing meeting for any ground set forth in paragraph 1 of this section, or if there is substantial evidence to find that A, the applicant is not possessed or has not demonstrated financial responsibility sufficient to meet adequately the requirements of the enterprise proposed to be authorized. ARS 5-108.02A provides that the commission may revoke the permit of any permittee upon any of the grounds upon which the commission could refuse to approve a permit in 5-108. ARS 5-111 requires that wagering shall be conducted by a permittee only by parimutuel wagering and only on the dates for which the racing or dark day simulcast has been authorized by the commission. Wagering for a licensed racing meeting shall be conducted by a commercial live racing permittee only within an enclosure and at those additional facilities that are owned or leased by a permittee that are approved by the commission and that are used by a permittee for handling wagering as part of a parimutuel system of the commercial live racing permittee. ARS 5-112B states that the department, on request by the permittee, may grant permission for electronically televised simulcasts by horse races to be received by the permittee. The simulcast shall be received at a racetrack enclosure at which authorized racing has been conducted, whether or not the posted races have been offered for the day of the simulcast received. The court notes that the appellant is present and represented by legal counsel. Let's go ahead and swear in the witnesses, if any. Otherwise, Assistant Attorney General, are there any procedural matters that need to take at this time?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to go ahead and allow for 5 minutes for the appellate and the Attorney General's opening remarks. I'll do a 10-minute evidentiary phase and a 5-minute closing remarks. And we'll go ahead and get started. The appellant, I'll go ahead and ask you for your opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start by noting that we've tried in vain to find out in advance of this hearing about the procedural process here, whether there would be witnesses, whether there'd be evidence. And I didn't know until just now that that would be the process. And that seems inappropriate. I'd lodge an objection. Second, I'd note that we're not the appellant because as far as I can tell, there's not been any vote by this commission to rescind a permit. If that decision's already been made and we're already in appellate posture, I think that'd be a grave open meeting and public records violation. So as far as I can tell, this is supposed to be the first hearing on the issue, not the appeal of a previous decision. Procedurally, I would note that if anyone has a burden of proof here, it's not us, we're not appealing, it's the department to prove their case, to prove that there's a basis for revoking this permit. And the entire basis for issuing the notice of intent to revoke and convening this hearing ultimately is based on just a false statement. This commission was told by Mr. Casillas that if there wasn't a live meet held in the summer of this year, the commission was required to revoke our client's permit. That's not the case. That is false. It was false when it was said, and it's false now. This hearing never should have been called on that basis. It appears that even Mr. Casillas has backed away from that idea, though. In his letter, in the notice, he's presented to you 3 bases for revoking. The first one is that Arizona Downs is not authorized to do business in Arizona. Candidly, if you're going to vote against us, I really hope you vote on the basis of this theory, because it's manifestly wrong, and we would have an almost certainty of winning a legal proceeding on that basis. Arizona Downs is and has always been, during all relevant periods of time, authorized to do business in the state. There's not a shred of evidence presented by the department, because it doesn't exist otherwise. The second basis is that there is inadequate finances at Arizona Downs to conduct its business. The fact of the matter is that Arizona Downs can and is meeting all of its current financial obligations. There's been no default here, at least not in any recent time, not during the relevant period of time. And except during COVID, Arizona Downs has run live meets in every fiscal year of its permit, including this fiscal year, and plans to continue doing that. Sure, it cannot say right now where the funding for its 2024 summer meet will come from, but that's not new. Arizona Downs has never had full funding for its meets a year in advance, and there is no requirement that has full funding for its meets a year in advance. If the commission wishes to establish that as a principle, if it's violated, you can revoke a permit, the commission needs to go through ordinary notice and comment and rulemaking procedures. It can't do it in a surprise revocation hearing. The truth is that we don't know now what will happen between now and the summer of 2024. It may be true that Arizona Downs takes on more investors, or that it issues more debt. It may receive subsidies, it has in the past. Its OTB income may increase, and its cash flow may change such that it's able to just pay for the 2024 meet with free cash flow. There's any number of ways that Arizona Downs will be able to fund its 2024 fiscal year meet. And when the time comes, that will be the time to assess whether they're able to meet their financial obligations. Again, there is no requirement that 1 year in advance they be able to say where the money will come from. That's never been the practice, and it's never been done before. The irony of the financial viability argument is that many of Arizona Downs' financial burdens were imposed on it by the department. For example, the department refused to process the application for harness racing, and that would have resulted in hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue for Arizona Downs. The department caused that to not happen. The department's also refused to enforce Section 5112C, which would increase Arizona Downs revenue by roughly $500,000 annually. The department pressured the AHBPA to pull approval for simulcast signals, again, under false pretenses, as we've outlined in our pre-hearing memorandum. So the point here is that Arizona Downs is solvent. It can meet all of its current obligations. The big financial obligation that we're worried about in summer 2024 is so unripe, so premature. It cannot be the basis for saying that there's lack of financial viability at Arizona Downs. And to the extent there are financial problems, they've been caused by the department. The third basis the department offers is that Arizona Downs threatens the safety, welfare, economy, health, or peace of the state. But you can't just cite a statute and win. You actually have to show how the ongoing status quo, where Arizona Downs is in business, it's operating, it's employing people, it's meeting its financial obligations. How is that threatening the safety, welfare, economy, health, and peace of the state? It's not shown because, as far as I can tell, there is no evidence of that. Meanwhile, if you revoke the permit, it's going to increase unemployment. It'll probably portend the end of live racing in Arizona entirely because of turf paradise situation. So these are our basic points in this hearing. I will note here at the end of my closing that we've made all these points in writing. We submitted to the staff a pre-hearing memorandum making these points and attaching 7 exhibits that I think are relatively straightforward, some of which are actually from the commission's own records. And so not having advance notice about how the procedures of this hearing would work, I'd just like to make sure that you received the pre-hearing memorandum, that it will in fact be part of the record.
Thank you, sir. The Assistant Attorney General, please proceed with your opening remarks.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I think that'll be me, Patrick Irvin, speaking, for the division in this case. Just as a note in terms of, I know I received all that and I did forward it to staff, and I believe all the pre-hearing memo and the exhibits were distributed to the commissioners, and the division certainly has no objection to their introduction. In fact, they sort of prove the case and provide the evidentiary background for the commission to make its decision. This is not a hearing in isolation. The members of the commission discussed and debated this at the March 9th meeting and the April 20th meeting, and addressed all the various issues. I think the description of the grounds for the notice of intent to revoke, and I think the commission, the decisions were based on directing the division of the department to issue a notice of intent to revoke. So there really has not been that final vote. That's what this proceeding is about. But the notice listed a number of statutes. They were not necessarily the grounds for revocation. I think it comes down to the financial responsibility that's required by the statute, and in large part that relates to the lack of live race meetings. That in order to be a permittee under the statute, you have to have a permission to conduct live race meetings. The definitions of a permit under the statute is a permit for a racing meeting issued under this article, and a racing meeting means a number of days of racing allotted by the commission to one permit. And at this point, there are no racing dates allotted, and based on the financial condition that Arizona Downs has admitted to, the commission is very unlikely, if not totally unlikely, to approve it, because under the Arizona Downs' own admissions, based on the exhibits they presented to you, Exhibit 3 and Exhibit 4, they acknowledge they don't have the financial viability to conduct a race meeting in 2023, and the requested dates in 2024 are very speculative as to whether they would have the financial viability. And so at this point, the permit they were issued for conducting a race meetings in 2022 listed specific dates. Those dates are done. There are no dates allocated to Arizona Downs for 2023 or 2024, and therefore they really are not a permittee as far as the statutes read. And that's under their own admissions. As I say, that's not the commission. The pre-hearing brief tries to make the division, the department, the villain. But I think the commissioners have heard enough about this to know that that's not the case. You weren't strong-armed into making the decisions you did on March 9th or April 20th. But the permittee must have live racing dates, and there are none here. And that's perhaps the grounds for revocation, because the ground for revocation is that if you wouldn't approve it in the first place. And if this was a bare application coming before you now, you would not approve it based on the financial responsibility that's shown. In 2018, I think you'll hear some argument that they were allowed to have a permit and conduct simulcast even a year before they raced. But if you look back at the commission's records, the temporary permit that was issued listed specific dates in 2019. And I believe the application would have listed a definite plan, not just speculation, for the finances. And so at that time, the commission listed specific dates. They became a permittee. And so that the 2018 operations are really irrelevant. And in terms of, as I say, the financial conditions of Arizona Downs is not a new thing. It is not a surprise. I think it's been discussed at many, many meetings over many, many years. It is not something that the division created. If you recall the March 9th meeting and the April 20th meeting, you will recall discussions about it, certainly comments from the horsemen at that time about what they might do if there was no contract, and if there was no contract, and there couldn't be a contract if there weren't race dates. And there was also the discussion that by some of the Arizona Downs people that it would not be a good thing for them to conduct OTBs if there were no race dates, because taking money to accumulate purses when you have no race dates that are allocated and in the works is not really what's provided for under the statute. And that's not what the commission does in terms of protecting the public who are racing. So just in summary, I mean, there's no race dates allocated based on the financial information presented and admitted to by Arizona Downs. They would not be granted for 2023 or 2024, and therefore the continuation of the permit at this time. The commission can decide what it's going to decide, but in terms of the notice of intent that was issued at the behest of the commission, the division believes was justified, and the commission can affirm it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We'll move into the evidentiary phase. Mr. Langhofer, do you have additional evidence to present? And just to confirm, we did receive the items sent at least within 24 hours before this meeting, but yes, we did receive them. And if you have anything else that you want to present.
Thank you, Chair Coolidge. And the submission, including the exhibits, I assume will be part of the record?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think that that is probably adequate for purposes of evidence. I would like to make a few points in response to what Mr. Irvine just said. So it appears based on Mr. Irvine's comments that the basis for revocation, the real basis for revocation, is that there will be no live race meets this summer. And I would like to know pointedly, which regulation does that violate? But as far as we can tell, there is no statute, there is no regulation requiring a minimum number of races in any given period of time. And the fact is, I don't think anyone disputes this fact, Arizona Downs has conducted live races in each of its fiscal years since reacquiring its license and reopening, except for during COVID. No one was operating live races during COVID. And it intends to keep operating live races in each of its fiscal years. So if the violation, the alleged violation is we're not running one this summer, I think we need to be able to point to a statute or a regulation that says we need to run one this summer. If there's no such statute or there's no such regulation, there is no violation, there's no basis for revocation. And if they're using the summer meet as a proxy for financial viability, where are those standards set forth? Which regulation says that you must have all of your liquidity arranged a year in advance of meets? There's no regulation that says that. There's no objective standard set out in statutes or regulation that establishes that. And as I've said before, it's never been the practice of the tracks to provide that sort of information in advance because they're working it out. There's so much that can happen. OTB revenue is still being decided. The enforceability of 5-112C is still at issue. So much can change between now and a year from now that if someone were to say, I've got the money today for 1 year from now, it would actually be unreliable because there's too much runway between now and then. And for the same reason, you can't require us to show something when there's so much that can change over the next year. I'd also like to point out that it occurs to me that the notice that was sent was addressed to J-Corps Partners and not Arizona Downs. J-Corps Partners is not Arizona Downs. I'm informed that they're unrelated entities, and so I don't think the addressing of the notice was proper. But with that said, Mr. Chair, those are our points.
Thank you, sir. Madam Attorney General, sorry, I'm seeing a hand raised, but I can't see it on my device.
I believe that was Dave Author, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Author, I'll give you.
I'm sorry, you were cut off. Chairman Coolidge, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I'm saying I'll give you a couple of.
Okay,
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, Diane Didia here. If I may, if he's going to be testifying, can we swear him in, please?
let's do it.
Yes, ma'am. Someone from the department ready to.
Do you have that script? Mr. Chair?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, the
Do you want
secretary's
me,
got it.
do you want me to do that for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please state your name for the record.
David Author.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir. Thank you, Madam Assistant Secretary.
Thank you. It's awkward to try to set up a witness to testify when our counsel is in a different place. So I hope the proper way to do that is to hit my hand symbol and say that we're prepared to testify. But there's a couple of things I think that are factually important to understand. We did submit race dates to the division, and the fact that they didn't make it onto the agenda for a vote by the commission doesn't mean we didn't submit race dates, nor does it mean that the commission may or may not have granted those race dates. So to the extent there's a linkage between having a permit and having approved race dates, I don't know how we make that linkage if there's never a opportunity for the commission to vote on our application or on our race dates. And again, those race dates were submitted by direction of by the racing division, who said on March 31, we want you to submit your race dates, which we did. So to the extent Pat Irvin is saying that we haven't submitted race dates or they haven't been approved, really have our hands, because we did submit them and apparently they weren't acted upon. I wanted to emphasize, secondly, one of the points that, from a factual point of view, that Mr. Langhofer did, and that is, in our brief, we indicated that some of the financial issues that Arizona Downs is dealing with are specifically caused and contributed to by the racing division. We don't have to go all the way back to 2019, but we could, and talk about the improper enforcement application of the racing division. We can just start with the most recent mistakes the division has made. And although Mr. Langhofer spoke about this, it's really important to emphasize that we had a contract with the harness racing group Watch and Wager to provide the facility for them to do harness racing, and they applied for that back in October, I believe. And they were going to pay us, they're going to rent our space, they're going to pay all the expenses, they were going to get the track ready, and they were going to put the track back in its original form when they were done, and that would give us an opportunity to run. And so we were going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars with that group. And we asked Mr. Casillas, why did you sit on that application? And indicated that he called the folks that were buying our track, that we were under contract to buy our track, and they said, we don't want to have harness racing.
Sir, I'm gonna give you one more minute.
Okay, this is rather important. You're trying to put us out of business. So Mr. Casillas dropped that application, and then lo and behold, our buyer dropped the purchase of our track. And I don't know how we get back to where we are to try to get harness racing back up to snuff. So there's, I don't know if I'm going to run out of time here. We do have a bit of a closing that we want to address after Mr. Langhofer does his, so that the commission understands the practical effect of taking a permit is not just a slap on the wrist. It's basically shutting down horse racing in Arizona because Turf Paradise is selling. So when we're done and Turf Paradise is done, we're all done. And there's no reason, there's no statewide benefit, there's no way to help the welfare of the state, etc., by deciding that, well, we're just going to shut down horse racing, and in particular Arizona Downs. But I'm not exactly sure where I fit in the sequence, Mr. Coolidge, but that's all I have to say right now.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Irvine, your response.
I have no cross-examination of Mr. Author.
Do you have any additional documents to bring up?
No, other than what the Arizona Downs has submitted, we have no additional evidence.
Thank you, sir. We'll move into the conclusion phase. Mr. Langhofer, Mr. Author, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe I've made my points both in writing and orally. If Mr. Author has something to add, it sounds from his last comments that he does. I think I defer to him to let him speak.
Mr. Author, I have 5 minutes slated for this, so go ahead. Mr. Author.
Sorry, Chairman Cool. This is Tom Author. I'm going to take about 1 minute, and then my brother Dave will take the rest. The only point I want to make is one of the points that has been brought up. First of all, this is a fiscal permit, not a calendar year permit, and you can see that in the 6/9/22 agenda, and that's very important. Secondly, the argument that, well, if we let Arizona Downs not run, then Turf can say we're not going to run. The important distinction is we have run every year, including COVID, incidentally, for a couple months during our permit period. So, and we've filed for dates to run during our permit period for 2024. We ran permit period 2023. So to say, well, so as long as we run during our permit period and Turf runs during its permit period, everybody's being treated the same. This is not a case of Arizona Downs didn't run in a calendar year, so Turf doesn't have to run a calendar year. I agree with the point. If we don't run during our stipulated permit period, that's probably, this proceeding is probably fair. But the only thing preventing us from running this permit period is the fact that nobody's approved our dates yet. So that's the only issue. I'll turn everything over to Dave now. Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. I always wonder why Brother Tom doesn't want to be on the camera, but it doesn't help. We are. I just want to be able to emphasize to the commission what you're being asked to do, and try to figure out why you're being asked to do it. You're being asked to put Arizona Downs out of business, to put all our employees out of business, and to scuttle the investment that we made beginning in 2018 to build a facility that was in a total wreck with the roof leaking, weeds everywhere, whereupon we borrowed millions of dollars to put it back where it should be. We ran 3 fantastic meets. Ask anybody who has been up there. We hired the most accomplished horse race track manager, and she is now the safety director for HISA. Everything that we did was completely by the book. Everything that we did was in the interest of horse racing and to put horse racing in Arizona back for a summer meet so that the horsemen could race year round. And we did that with a lot of headwinds. And the only one in the commission, I suppose, is as Chairman Coolidge, to know what a fight we have had to have with respect to the Monarch signal, with respect to the 60-mile rule, which was brought up at least 4 times in an attempt to put us out of business, with this phony non-commingled thing that we had to do. So every time we were doing it, everything we've done is to try to support horse racing. And now we're at the one summer where, with the growth in inflation, with the advancing of sportsbook, with the problems between Indian gaming and horse racing, that we didn't have sufficient funds to run this particular summer. So we advised that we would run in the same fiscal year at the next in May. And for some reason, and I don't want to get too personal, but it's what the hell? Why take our permit now? Then we're done. If you think we just give us a permit, we go back in and get it later, you take it, we get it back. It doesn't work that way. Once we're done, horse racing is done. Turf Paradise is for sale. Turf Paradise has alleged that it might run a few months under the new ownership, but that's it. That's it. So basically, we're just saying it makes no sense. It doesn't help the safety, welfare of the state, et cetera, to tell us right now, we're not going to take a chance on you next May. We're not going to allow you to keep accumulating purse money. We're not going to allow you to try to make operations money, and we're going to shut you down. Thanks a lot. See you later. Sorry you lost, $18 million or whatever the number is, but we've just decided we don't want you around. And we think that's totally unfair. It's not supported by the statutes. And we ask that you don't do that at the hearing today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. 5 minutes to you, Mr. Irvine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. I think just to reiterate the notice of intent to revoke the flag racing permit that the commission authorized at its April 20th meeting, specifically, cites to the provision that requires an applicant to be possessed of demonstrated financial responsibility sufficient to meet adequately the requirements of the enterprise prepared to be authorized. I think that's really the basis here, in terms of the as they've admitted for 2023 and as they've even admitted for 2024, in terms of the lack of the financial responsibility. That leads directly to the issue that they don't have any live racing dates. Contrary to, I think, what Mr. Langhofer says, that's not the single grounds for revoking, but they're certainly tied together, because the commission would not be approving live racing dates because they have not demonstrated the financial responsibility. And so to leave the permit in place when they have admitted they don't have the financial responsibility to conduct live racing meetings is what the question before the commission. And in terms of the statute, certainly support a revocation on that basis. And as I say, I listened to the March and April meetings again, and the commission has debated this. The commission obviously understands it. The commission it has the authority to issue and revoke the permit. The division and the department are not the villains here. This has been an issue for a long time, but certainly the last few months, the whole issue of the future of the live racing and how that affects other things has been before the commission. And so I don't need to belabor either the evidence or the law, because you clearly understand it. So I'll conclude with that.
Thank you, sir. Before opening, I'd like to ask the Assistant Attorney General if I can open for questions or comments from the commissioners, or do I need to end the proceedings?
I believe the evidentiary portion has been closed and you've received closing arguments. So that portion of the hearing is closed and you can discuss that amongst the commissioners. And just to remind you that you can always vote to go into executive session to receive legal advice.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions, executive session requests, or others from my commissioner?
Thank you, Chairman. Not at this time.
Okay. The Racing Commission will take note of these proceedings and the record and make a determination within 30 days. Anyone who feels aggrieved by the commission's order may file an appeal to the Office of Hearings pursuant to the applicable statutes, rules, and regulations. This hearing is adjourned. The time is 10:39. As far as items happening with that, we did receive a lot of documents, just so that everyone knows that just the pamphlet for today's session was 333 pages that the commissioners received about 24 hours before this meeting, not to mention all the additional documents that we received. So at this point, unless I have any commissioners that disagree with me on it, I'd like to make a motion to take this under advisement, and we will spend some time on the documents to make sure that we have our ducks in a row there.
I would second that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner French Contreras. I will take the roll call. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Abstain.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
with a total of 3 yeses and 1 abstain. Thank you. The motion passes.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll jump back up to B1, the legal update regarding the Sims v. Sims et al. Case. I'll move that we go into executive session and just remind my commissioners, which I'm sure they're already aware, we will only be discussing the Sims v. Sims case as we move forward with that motion. Do I
I'll
have a
second that motion.
Thank you. With a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner French Contreras, I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
with a total of 4 yeses. Thank you. That motion passes, and we will move into executive session.
Madam Secretary?
Looks like we're back into regular session. I will take the roll call. Chair Coolidge,
Present.
Vice Chair Olson,
Present.
Commissioner French Contreras,
I'm here.
Commissioner York, Commissioner York, Commissioner York. Chair, would you like for me to proceed? We have 3, or do I wait?
We'll give her another minute. Commissioner York, are you on yet?
Give me a second. I am actually, she didn't have the link.
So you guys can't see or hear me?
Oh, there she is.
We got you.
I can see myself and
Yep. Go ahead, Madam Secretary.
I'll start over with the roll call. Chair Coolidge,
Present.
Vice Chair Olson,
Present.
Commissioner French Contreras,
present.
Commissioner York.
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum. It is now 11:05 a.m. and the floor is yours, Chair.
Thank you, ma'am. Just as a reminder, this is item action B1. I would make a motion that we proceed as directed in executive session.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by, I didn't catch who did the second.
It's Vice Chair
Olson.
Olson.
Vice Chair Olson. I will do the roll call. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner York.
Yes.
The total of 4. Thank you. That motion passes and we will move into executive session.
I don't think we're going to move into executive session. It was just passed as
Oh.
directed.
Okay.
We'll jump down to B3, discussion for commission meetings to be in-person meetings. This wasn't on my radar from what the department told me on the agenda. So I'll take it back to the department, or maybe another commissioner had asked for this to be on. While we're waiting for that, Mr. Nolan has signed up to speak. Go ahead, Mr. Nolan. Couple of minutes, please.
Yeah, can you see me and can I get started?
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, it was I who requested this in an attempt to have the commission see the people that their decisions make. We saw just a few minutes ago, Mr. David Arthur say how these proceedings, while doing Zoom, it's hard to cross-examine, it's hard to swear in people, and so on and so forth. And with that said, I'd just like to refer back to the reason that we are holding meetings like this. And on the notice for a public meeting, it says due to the ongoing health concern. Well, I believe a lot of that has been lifted. I believe that we need more transparency. I believe that people being in front of a commission, the ones whose decision, the people that the commission's decisions affect, would have a much bigger impact. I saw that these B1 was on here, and we need more transparency. We got to remember that these court cases started in 2010. We are June 2023. The impact of that court case, the problems that have arisen from other court, the case against the commission by one of the parties, these are having a huge negative impact. I think that the intent of the open meeting laws is to be more transparent, to have a better grasp for the commissioners to make proper decisions with people bringing information to you. Under the procedure before the commission, people who appear before a commission have the right to be heard on all issues. I could cite that. It's, I believe, 124B 3 or 4, but there's a lot of issues that we're not dealing with, and people's livelihoods are being upside down. The impact of employees, I just think that it would be better. I thank whoever does these agendas. I thank them for putting this on there. I believe it's so important that we get back in front of a commission where people can really try to make it known to commissioners the lives and livelihoods that are at stake here. And to do it over a computer isn't quite what I think the open meeting laws had. Now that there's no longer an open, ongoing public health concern, I'm hoping that you'll make a motion to make them both. If for those that can come, to please come. And for those that can't, because we've been doing it this way a couple of years, to make it available by Zoom also. Technology, we're the year 2023. We need to help this industry move forward. Having people speak and try to do the right thing is very important to a commission. So you have many things on your agenda. Just please, maybe let's move it so we have a July in-person meeting. That would be
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Yother? You're on mute, sir. Mr. Yother? I think he's stuck on mute. Just speaking on my behalf here, I don't think we actually need this to be an action item. I know we have had discussions with the department, and I don't think we need to make an actual motion to have in-person meetings. I think that's always been the goal. I know the building was moving. We had the pandemic and others, so something we can absolutely look to seek guidance on from the department there. That's why I asked in the first place. But we will continue to review and see what we can put together. Commissioner York?
Just a quick question. If we were to move to in-person meetings and a commissioner could not attend in person, say because they're out of town, would we still be able to attend via Google Meet? Or will it be a requirement for all commissioners to be in person?
That would likely be something we need to work through the department. It's not something that we have had before the pandemic, but I would assume in today's day and age we could figure something out. Ms. French Contreras?
Yeah, I do support as well in-person meetings. I think that a lot more can be done in a meeting. I think it's more proactive if we can attend or make every effort to attend. Yes, of course, occasionally there's going to be a requirement that we attend electronically, and that absolutely is allowed by statute. But if at all possible, I do support, I'd be happy to drive an hour each way downtown to have these meetings in person.
Mr. Yother, I'll give you one more shot, see if we can come off mute here. So. Okay. Any other questions or comments from my commissioners? Or motion? Okay, we'll drop down to 4A, simulcast agreement pursuant to ARS 5-112U for Turf Paradise. Mr. Duncan, any updates on your side there?
Mr. Chairman, there is no updates on my side.
Looking through these. Make everything's in order. I'll move that we approve Turf Paradise 1 through 7 simulcast agreements pursuant to ARS 5-112U.
I'll second that motion.
Secretary Commissioner Olson, do you have an addition there?
Yes, Chair Coolidge, if I may, I have a conflict with 4A1, so if we could just break the vote between 4A1 and 4A2 through 7, so I could participate, that would be great.
Yes, ma'am. We'll move to. I'll make a motion to approve simulcast agreements pursuant to ARS 5-112U 2 through 7.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner French Contreras. I will take the roll call. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner York. With a
Yes.
total of 4 yeses, thank you. That motion passes.
Also move that we approve simulcast agreement pursuant to ARS 5-112U Turf Paradise for Los Alamitos School.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner York. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Abstain?
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner York.
Yeah.
With the total of 3 yeses and 1 abstain, thank you. That motion passes.
Dropping down to 5A, simulcast agreement or simulcast horse racing import signals pursuant to IHA section 3004A3. Mr. Duncan, do you have any updates as far as any of the information here? Looks like it's all
No, sir, Mr. Chairman. 1 through 3 are complete. 4 through 7 are missing documentation.
I'll move that we approve simulcast horse racing import signals pursuant to IHA section 3004A3 for Rapama Park and Saratoga Springs.
Sorry, Chair, you broke up for just a minute. You said that was for
2
Ratama
and
Park
3.
and Saratoga Springs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll second that.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Vice Chair Olson. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner York.
Yes.
With a total of 4 yeses, thank you. That motion passes.
I'll move that we approve Turf Paradise's simulcast signal for Los Alamitos Racecourse.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Commissioner York. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Abstain?
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
with a total of 3 yeses and 1 abstain. Thank you. That motion passes.
I'll move that we conditionally approve simulcast horse racing import signals for Turf Paradise for Tampa Bay Downs, Enos Park, Del Mar, and Colonial Downs, provided they submit all the prerequisite documentation and leave it to the department to do a final decision so that the permittee doesn't see the light.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Chair Coolidge and a second by Vice Chair Olson. I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Yes.
Vice Chair Olson,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner York,
Yes.
with the total of 4 yeses. Thank you. That motion passes with conditional approval.
Thank you, ma'am. As we head into the track safety report, I'm going to ask Vice Chair Olson to handle items C1 and further as I'll be loading up on the plan here shortly. And we'll jump off, but I don't want to delay. So let's go ahead and take it over to Dr. Gale for the track safety report, and then Vice Chair, if you wouldn't mind.
Will do. Thanks, Chair.
Dr. Gale.
Thank you, Chair Coolidge, Commissioners. Again, I'm going to just go over a couple of things. The meet's been over since the first part of May. Again, just to review the year comparison. I don't know that I necessarily went over that on the meeting last time. So for all tracks in Arizona, Arizona Downs, Turf Paradise, and Riito, in the fiscal year 23, the rate was 2.24 per thousand starts for thoroughbreds. In the previous fiscal year, that rate was 2.59. So there was some improvement there. The various tracks for Arizona Downs, it was 2.17 in the most recent fiscal year. It was 0.97 in the previous fiscal year. That reflects that there was one thoroughbred breakdown in fiscal year 22 and 2 breakdowns in fiscal year 23. In Riito, this past year, the rate was 1.64 per thousand. The previous year, there had been several horses that had breakdown incidents, and so the number was over 10. But again, tremendous improvement this one year to the next. For Turf Paradise, the current fiscal year was 2.14 per thousand, and the previous was 2.31. So in general, improvement across the board, I would say. And then again, we're still remaining above the national rate of 1.25. I would also be in favor of in-person meetings with the commission. When we were initially doing the quarterly safety meetings, and now HISA requires monthly safety meetings, we generally coordinated those with commission meetings so that various stakeholders could be present, as most folks did attend the in-person commission meeting. So I'd just like to put that in for consideration. I have asked Stride Safe, there was a request last meeting to get some type of a summary on what had occurred down at Riito, what their findings might have been. I haven't yet heard back, but I did take a look. I did receive reports during the race meet of horses that had been red lighted during the early part of February. And I looked at about 20 of those horses, some that were red lighted and then some that worked off the vet list. And out of those 20 horses, there were 10 horses in February that were identified as a red light and then went on to run multiple times at Riito. So that would be an interesting bit of information to find out how did those readings vary from race to race in those particular horses. So that's information I'm requesting. There were 3 horses that did have red light findings in February and then wound up getting scratched for lameness later in the meet. And then there were also 3 horses. These horses didn't have red lights, but they were on the vet list. And they worked off the vet list at Rito, and three horses. I don't have the baseline number of how many horses worked off the vet list down at Rito. I need to review the meet. But there were 3 horses that worked off vet list for lameness, and three of those wound up on the vet list again. So those kind of bits of information I think will be helpful. Going back to Turf Paradise, we did have a recent public information request regarding voided claims. Last 6 weeks of the meet at Turf Paradise, there were 100 total claims, and of those 9 were voided. Most for lameness. There was 1 horse that bled, another horse that was vanned off, but was not determined to be lame. So those are the latest. Again, I certainly hope to go through and present some more summaries at the next meeting, as well as perhaps cover some of the drug test results from the past
Going
meeting.
back into executive session? Okay.
I'm happy to
I
take
almost had
any.
a freak out because I was looking at Arizona's calendar and they had a meeting today, but it's just their
Mr.
racing
Hayes,
commission. Sorry.
please mute your mic. Thank you. I'm sorry, Dr. Gale, please proceed.
That pretty much finished, and happy to take questions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your update. Commissioner York.
Dr. Gale, thank you for the report. I was just curious on the Safe Stride. I know you've spoken directly to the company, but what about Mr. Weiss? Has he produced a report, or does he have any information on the results?
I've contacted him as well. He has a list, I believe, of the Stride Safe company provided Rito. He could maybe answer that question himself. He's raised a hand.
Okay. Bottom line is, I mean, obviously we can go through a lot of detail and that would be great, but it would be also important to understand, since this was more or less a beta test at one of our tracks in the state, how does Rito feel about the whole program? How do you feel about the program? Is it something, future investment should be made in? Maybe we can't answer it today, but it would be nice in the future to get that understanding.
Just my general my general input would be, certainly it's one of the tools. It's probably one of the less expensive tools. There are other tracks. The Monarch tracks are using sensors and cameras to sort of like facial recognition, but it's stride recognition for horses. And they're trying to test that to see if they're able to identify horses during training that may have lameness or need further evaluation. The other thing would be, again, I would have liked to have had a little more involvement, that we could have perhaps kept track of some of these red light horses, and then exam findings, and just do a little better tracking on our own. But again, it might take perhaps an intern or something to help manage that data, because I'm sure it's quite a lot.
Thank you, Commissioner York and Dr. Gale. Mr. Weiss, would you like to respond to Commissioner York's question?
Yes, I'd be happy to, Commissioners. This is Mike Weiss from Rito Park. Stride Safe was something that caught my eye as a demo at the Racetrack Symposium in Tucson during their the RTIP program symposium. And I happened to talk to Dr. Lambert and convinced him to help experiment with this at Rito, as it had only been used at Belmont Park on 6,500 horses at Belmont, and he had never done quarter horses. So it was interesting. We put it together. It was not inexpensive. For 18 days, it was $45,000 to do this. Now, it did show different, it was a piece of equipment that went in the saddle towel, and we did get reports after the races, which showed almost a traffic light type pattern, green, different shades of amber, and a red. Because this was an experiment and wasn't official, we didn't take the red and put it directly onto a veterinarian's list. However, we contacted the trainer and said, your horse red lighted. We would like you to have a vet look at the horse prior to re-entering. If or when the horse did enter, whether it was weeks or whatever later, we had our own equine wellness program in place where we had students, vet students and veterinarians pre-check every single horse. If it was a red light, we made sure they went through them, every horse anyways, with the direction, do not be afraid to scratch. This is about safety. This is our equine wellness. So if there was a horse that was red lighted, you know, the trainer's responsibility was to have the vet look at it, but we took an extra responsibility and went over the horse, and we did scratch some horses. I'm not saying exactly how many from the red light, but we scratched any horse that we were not comfortable with. And I will clearly state that we did not have any horses break down during a race. So we actually had 0 during the race, and we can argue that later, but we had, you know, it was a very successful program. I was very pleased, and the students learned a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss, for your update. Commissioner York, you've raised your hand.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Based on your experience then, would you recommend expansion of this?
Well, they are doing it at other tracks now. And yes, I found it very helpful. Again, I can't say that this is the answer. I don't want to say that it's the answer because it is still new. But I was very happy to be part of it because that's really what Reed is about, is groundbreaking and learning. So yeah, I would not hesitate to use it again. I would have like to, you know, of course, discuss it with the Rito board, but yes, I would do it again.
And I would simply add that, again, having the University of Arizona there, as well as the newly opened vet school, I think there's a great resource for doing some collaboration, again, to benefit the students in terms of their training, as well as getting more information, gaining more data to learn more about the benefits of this program.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gale, Mr. Weiss, and Commissioner York for those comments and updates. Moving next to agenda item C2, the budget report. Somebody from the department available to speak on this item?
Yes, good morning. This is Andrew Hawks, Assistant Director at the Department of Gaming, and I'll present this data.
Thank you, Mr. Hawks. Please proceed.
All right, this chart represents what the department has spent compared to its annual appropriation of $2.285 million. Through the end of May, between what we've spent and what's been encumbered to be spent this fiscal year, that figure is approximately $1.7 million, well within the appropriation. Next slide, please. This chart represents the cash balance. The top of the green section represents 1 year's worth of appropriation, and so we have sufficient cash at the moment to cover more than 1 year's worth of appropriation. Next slide, please. I'll give everyone a moment to read this. This kind of breaks down the revenue and expenses that contribute to these financials. And I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions from my fellow commissioners?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hawks. We appreciate your presentation today. All right, moving now to information report item C3, the report on the International Horse Racing Integrity Act. Mr. Guessman.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please, we hear an echo.
That should be taken care of. No.
I'm gonna try again.
Okay, is that better?
Yes, thank you. Please proceed, Mr. Guessman.
This is just a real brief update today. The first lawsuit, which was the National HBPA lawsuit, as you remember, we have appealed it back to the 5th District Court. The 5th District Court did come out this week and announced that the oral hearings are going to be the first week of October. So we do actually have a date, a time period of when we're going to have our oral arguments on that. I do believe, and I talked to the council today with the National HPBA, it appears that the other 4 lawsuits are kind of in a holding pattern with their judges. I think they're waiting to determine what comes from this action in the 5th District Court. There has not been any further action in any of the other lawsuits. They're kind of just in a holding pattern. The other thing I wanted to bring up is, if you remember last meeting, I mentioned something about the National HVPA and the ARCI are behind a new bill. It looks like that bill could be out of committee any day and taken to the floor, possibly the Senate. Senator Grassley is anxious to get this bill passed. This bill would create a national compact that each state would have to join, and then the ARCI would be pretty much replacing HISA if this bill passes. The name of this is the Racehorse Health and Safety Act, the RHSA. The thoroughbred business, horse racing businesses, I refer to it as the alphabet soup. They all have these letters that represent their different divisions. But anyway, Racehorse Health and Safety Act. They would basically do what HISA is doing, except it would be done through the commissions at each state and be overseen by the ARCI. The good thing about this is it would eliminate the HISA assessment fees and still getting a lot of the same positive results that have come from HISA, and get rid of some of the negative results that have come from HISA. So hopefully this has some legs under it, and we have some success with that. That pretty much concludes my report on HISA. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guessman. Any questions from my fellow commissioners? All right, thank you. Moving next to agenda item C4, the permittee reports. We'll hear first from American Greyhound Racing.
Madam Vice Chair, members of the commission, Aaron Feinberg for American Greyhound Racing. We have no updates to share this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Feinberg. Arizona Downs.
Thank you, Chairwoman. As Tom Author for Arizona Downs. We don't want to appear presumptuous, but we're in the midst of pulling together our investors and working towards having the money to run a meet in May of 2024. So we're optimistic we can pull that together. Other than that, we really don't have anything to say, but I do have one favor, and that is if you do decide to have the meetings live, and I know that President Yoder would agree with this, if you could give us a little heads up on that, because I'll need to go out and buy some outfits. So that would be my only request, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Author.
Thank you.
All right, county fairs. Rita Park.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the commission, Mike Weiss here again. I did give you a little update now on the Stride Safe, so I just want to say that we're still closing out that season and looking forward to the next season and other ways to keep improving and learning. So it's you know, we had our 80th year anniversary. It was terrific. We were part of the National Pick 5. We have a lot to look forward to. One of the comments that people think because of the beat up old place is the quality of racing is not up to par. Well, I'm happy to say it is. During this off season, it's been fun. One of our stake winners from Rito, Mike Operator, went to Santa Anita and won at a mile and a 16th. A couple of days ago, Doc's Best Woman, one of our quarter horse stakes winners, went to Los Al and just won a big race. And this Speed Horse magazine featured a full page ad for the quarter horse Shades of Blue, who's retired and standing at stud at Reliance Ranch. And in the ad, nice big display where he's the winner of the 2022 Rito Park Championship. So it's kind of fun and good feeling to follow around. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. All right, Turf Paradise.
Chairman Coolidge, Commissioners, Turf Paradise has nothing to update the commission on at this time.
Thank you very much. Anything from county fairs? Anyone here?
Sorry, Commissioner Olson.
Sure. Go ahead,
I
Commissioner.
had a question for Turf Paradise. At this stage, what is your plan for your next meet? Do you have anything to report? Any thoughts on what'll be happening in October?
Not at this time, Commissioner. Perhaps Mr. Sims does.
This is Jerry Sims. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Sims.
Yeah, the new owner is working out the schedule. He said he's going to have an announcement on his race dates that he wants to race probably within the next month or so. He is planning to run
But you won't be, Turf Paradise won't be racing at all? It'll be all the new owner? Okay,
well, it's
so
possible.
that's what I'm
hasn't-
inquiring about.
Yeah, that's not been worked out yet. It's still possible that we would run a meet. But that's still being worked out. I'm meeting with the new owner in July and next month. And we'll be working on those kind of plans. When I know more or when he announces, we'll do that. But you can plan on live horse racing.
Okay, and you don't have a target date when you'd like to get it all buttoned up in terms of what the plans are? I mean, I know there's discussions, but at some point you must be discussing, we want to decide by a certain date.
Well, that's still being worked on right now. I don't have something definitive to tell you. The discussions between myself and the new owner are going on and decisions are being made, but there will be live racing. When I
We
have
just
more,
don't know
I'll
when.
never-
We just don't know
Pardon
when. There will be live racing, but we just don't know when.
Well, we just
Which is
finished
as
our meet.
important as, yeah.
We just finished our meet 2 weeks ago. So it's not as if we've been prolonging this. I mean, we just finished our meet May 6th. So it's only been a few weeks that we ran our live meet. So it takes a little bit more time to tell you the date for the next meet. But we've been running. We just finished a long meet.
Thank you, Mr. Sims.
Thank you all. Moving next to, unless County Fairs is here, we're going to move to information reports 5. Optional Industry Stakeholder Association updates, Arizona Counties Racing Association. Arizona Quarter Horse Racing Association.
Yes, Commissioner Olson and our Chairman Olson, Commissioners Lloyd Yoder with the Arizona Quarter Racing Association. First of all, I tried to get on the comments earlier on B3 about the in-person meetings, which I'm a very strong advocate of, and I'm old school, maybe even an old guy, I don't know. But anyway, I do better face to face, and I think the industry would be much better off if we had in-person meetings, and I don't have to go through this aggravation of trying to get on and get off because it's too much at stake at this point in time in Arizona quarter racing and thoroughbred racing. I'm also the president of the Arizona HBPA, and we're in a very precarious situation at this time. We don't know who's running, who's not, who's got license, who's got contracts, who's got, we don't know anything. We're in a very precarious situation. Our horsemen need to know something by mid-August, or if they do have a meet in Arizona, it's not going to be a very good meet because they have to plan what their lives are going to be for the next 6 months or to a year, or what meet they're going to. It's not. You can't just bring these horses home, put them on the shelf, and bring them back out, dust them off, and get ready for a meet whenever somebody decides to make a decision. Like I say again, we're very much in favor of in-person meetings. We are very much in favor of getting some kind of definitive answer on what can be done about horse racing in the state of Arizona, when and if we're going to have a meet. And other than that, I don't have anywhere to go. I mean, it's the first time, well, maybe not the first time in my life, but this is so precarious. It's to the point of ridiculous. But anyway, that's all I've got at this point in time. But we certainly need to make some serious decisions, and we need to get some people to the table and start making some decisions of where we go from here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Yothert. While you're here, do you have anything separate for HBPA?
Don't have it this time. I mean, we just finished our meet May the 6th, which has been about 3 weeks ago, and the horsemen are out to their new summer meets and are looking to me and the board, our board, to what they can do and how they can plan their lives, as I stated earlier, what to do in the future. And we have to have some kind of answer sometime in August. That's pretty much all I got for it.
Thank you, Mr. Yothert. Arizona
Thank
Thoroughbred Breeders Association, do you have an update? Hearing none. Jockeys Guild?
Chairman, members of the board, Daryl here, manager of the Jockeys Guild, Western Regional Manager. I have really nothing to report at this time, except to echo what was just said, that the jockeys need to know, the sooner the better, what the plan is for Turf Paradise, so they can make plans accordingly. So, we appreciate that the riders know the sooner than later. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hare. All right. Moving next to agenda item D1, summary of current events affecting the Arizona Racing Commission. Only commission members or the director may report, and no discussion or action may be taken on matters reported unless properly noticed for legal action or discussion. So, fellow commissioners or director, do you have anything you'd like to report?
No.
Yes, Commissioner French Contreras.
I just want to acknowledge the concerns about the uncertainty of upcoming races, and as far as I'm concerned, I have the same feeling. I'm painfully aware that an entire industry and a lot of families and sportsmen are waiting on these decisions, and it's not being taken lightly. So I'm hearing you.
Thank you, Commissioner. item D2, is there identification of any matters that you wish to be placed on future agendas? All right, and then we'll move to agenda item E, call to the public. If the department has a list, I did not receive it. I think maybe the chair had received it, so please let me know. We'll start with you, Mr. Nolan. You have 3 minutes to address the public.
Thank you, Vice Chair and Commissioners. The concern is enormous, as you can hear echoed by fellow commissioners. I was going to wait and file some documents in order to try to get an answer to the following question, and maybe you can answer it. August 2021, August meeting, a 3-year permit was granted to Turf Paradise. 3 years, fiscal years, I believe. And I believe there's an obligation to the state because that was awarded through, it's my understanding, the fiscal years July 1 through June 30. So if in fact they're operating now from July, June, in the 3rd year of that 3-year permit, don't they have an obligation? And could we defer that to maybe an AG for some research? How can he just get a 3-year permit and then boom, I'm not running? There's an obligation to the state. He has an obligation to the horsemen that have supported him for 20 years. The problem that I see is, and I hope I'm not stepping on the HPBA's toes here, but they put out a statement right at the end of the meet that Mr. Sims wants to be done with it. And the new person doesn't want to do any of the fixing up to bring it up to a standard. There's an obligation here. If the AG could maybe put this on an agenda so people will know. I believe that there's an obligation through June 30, 2024. He had been granted those 3-year permits unconditionally. I want to bring up a small fact that I had appealed that because there were some technical difficulties. I'll redo that through some paperwork. But can someone research what the obligation is of a permit that has a 3-year obligation to the people of the state? It's not just the horsemen, but we have $100 million agricultural business. Hay people, farriers, tack shops, just enormous, that the regulators that are supposed to protect the wagering public and the racing participants have the right. The rules are there. They need to enforce them. Don't be silent. Don't let us keep being silenced. I have been silenced enormous. With that, I want to thank whoever's in charge of these agendas for allowing me to get B3 on there for in-person meetings. That's the first time in maybe 10, 15 years of me coming to meetings since the mid-'80s that I was actually recognized. So I thank you, whoever it is that put that item on there. It got a lot of response. Maybe there's a need. So my goal would be to ask an assistant AG to research what the obligation is of a permit. If they have a 3-year permit, are they allowed to just say, I'm done? Are they allowed to transfer it? How is this going to take place? There are so many people in this country waiting to hear the results of today's meeting, and there are no results. The horsemen are...
Mr. Nolan, your time has expired.
Very
Please wrap
good.
up.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you, Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Nolan, for your comments. Are there any other people signed up for the call to the public? The department could let me know. All right, hearing none, we'll move next to agenda item F, announcements. The next scheduled commission meeting will be at 10 a.m. on Thursday, July 13th, 2023 at 100 North 15th Avenue, Suite 202, Phoenix, Arizona, or via Google Meet, and is subject to change based on quorum. For more information, please reference our website. And with that, I will hear a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion
to adjourn.
I'll second that, Commissioner York.
In person would help with this, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner York and a second by Commissioner French Contreras. I will take the roll call. Chair Coolidge. Vice Chair Olson.
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras.
Yes.
Commissioner York.
Yes.
Thank you. It is now 11:52 a.m. and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank
If
you.
everyone can please exit the meeting.
Thanks, everyone.